got this through this third party connection. I got an invite to actually take part in what you might call a séance or a cult gathering, and it was a full eyes wide shut caper. A limousine arrived, and you got hooded. You were told before you left to bring nothing metallic on you, and that at the time anyway you'd be given clothes to wear, a cloak to wear when you enter this coven, this church, this cult building, which you drove around. I was in Wellington, and we drove for I think half an hour or so. I had no idea whereabouts in Wellington we might have been with the hood on. And we were escorted up the steps into this church-like building. I didn't actually see the outside of it, but from the inside it was painted matte black. Everywhere was matte black. And I have a sneaking suspicion there'd be no metal in that building at all. No wooden nails. I think it would have been completely made of wood.
No.
And inside it was matte black, and the only light was from candles. And we were given robes to wear. We were completely stripped down and given robes to wear. You could not have any rings on your fingers, and if you had metal fillings, you were told to keep your mouth shut at all times.
You would have been a bit worried about this scenario, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, I was so intrigued. I mean, wouldn't you be intrigued to get on the inside of what really might go on in the higher powers, and who's running this country, who's running this planet, who's running New Zealand? And the opportunity was to get an apprentice course in this. I mean, this wasn't going to be the highest level, of course, because this was my introduction. But I was being invited because there was a possibility I could become a member if all went well.
Surely they would have perhaps known that you were who you were.
Well, don't forget, I was being recommended by someone on the inside.
Yeah. Okay.
So you could say I had served some form of apprenticeship, or they would have screened me out, and this person was prepared to lie on my identity and then recommend me because she'd been shafted evidently quite badly by some of the higher members of this hierarchy, and she was prepared to get someone else on the inside that might be able to do some good of it at a later date. And it was a dangerous job. You know, it was just the thought, if something went wrong or they discovered who I was, I might not see the light of day again. So, it was really stupidity of the highest order. But I'd got to the point where, having been in jail, and the government of New Zealand had thrown everything at me, they'd confiscated everything I owned during the 1989 through to 1994 episode, which was all in CoEvolution anyway. I felt I had nothing to lose. At that stage I was sort of a freelance agent. I didn't have a house, I didn't have any particular chattels, I had a nice car, and I had a little bit of money in the bank, and I was running a business, a self-funding business. So I was a free agent. And I thought, if this all goes wrong, the only person going to get hurt is me. And anyway, so this limousine arrives and drives me to wherever the hell we were in Wellington, or on the outskirts of Wellington, probably more likely on the outskirts of Wellington, not in Wellington Central. And I arrive at this building, and I was escorted up some steps, not being able to see where I was going. I was, someone at my side, and entered this building, and we got these cloaks were blood red on the inside, silk garment on the inside, black hood, and we were told to wear the hood at all times and not to look directly at anyone standing alongside us. Ooh, so in other words, you pull the hood.
Who could they have been?
So you can't see who is standing alongside you. And we were ushered into, and say no metal allowed. I'll explain why later. We were ushered into a sort of a auditorium. And there was a stage in front of us, and we were sort of up a few tiers, standing in a sort of a semicircle. And there was a ritual going on stage, and I won't go into any details, but it was pretty barbarous, and it was pretty, with sexual connotations and a lot of sort of X-rated stuff happening. And at the at a crucial point, there was all I could see from the candle lights was a very high vaulted sort of a hall like main building that we were in, and because it was matte black, it didn't reflect any light, but you get the impression that the ceiling was very high above us, maybe 40, 50 feet, I don't know, just it went out of sight anyway. And a shaft of lightning, or bolt of lightning, or a shaft of light came from the ceiling straight down onto the stage. And I swear there was a being, a fire-like being stood there. Wow. And I don't know whether electricity was involved or not, but I could understand maybe why there was no metal being worn, you know. And then this thing scanned the whole crowd, and when it got to me, it stopped. Fortunately, if you read CoEvolution, I'd been trained on how to blank my thoughts and not be read. And it sort of froze when this thing sort of, if it had a face, was looking at me. And I just wiped everything I possibly could from my mind, and then it just continued on around. Scanned the crowd. And I can't really tell you much about what happened after that.
Did you get a feeling of this being? Was it like, did it radiate, I don't know, evil? Or did it feel ominous? Or
I was not trying to engage it. So I was trying to keep very neutral. And I was scared. I was, to the point where if I'd been any more afraid, I might have given myself away, because everyone else was probably more relaxed with it.
You get the feeling that it was searching for a victim or a sacrifice?
No, I think it was just making sure that everyone was kosher.
Yeah. Right.
And it did stop at me, maybe because I was new, but also maybe I was radiating something I shouldn't have. But as soon as I switched off, become neutral, carbon neutral, if you say.
It was trying to read you?
Yes,
absolutely.
Maybe. Yeah. And fortunately, I'd had very good schooling on how to blank your thoughts at the deepest level.
So I'm here talking with Alec Newald. He's telling us about some of his more recent experiences, which are quite astounding. So we'll hope to be sharing some more information about some of the more recent perhaps communiques or understandings that you have of where we are as a people, and what's happening with the extraterrestrials that you are perhaps in contact with. And off camera, I have a friend who shall be going by the name of Kiwi Off.
Mr. X.
Mr. X.
Call me Mulder.
Mr. X.
Who will be offering some questions.
It's just if you read the latest edition of CoEv, it's got a Mr. X in there, but he's South African, so you're pretty safe. Your accent doesn't match.